Let me ask you a question that might shake you. What would your life look like today if you had full control of your mind 5 years ago? Most people are prisoners of a mind they never learned to master. They wake up tired, anxious, scattered, because their mind is running them instead of them. Running it. Your mind is a magnet, not a mirror. Most people live as if their mind is just a passive reflection of what's going on around them. They believe they are reacting to circumstances, responding to people, and adjusting to life as it happens. But the truth is far more powerful and far more dangerous if misunderstood. Your mind doesn't just reflect your world. It attracts the world you live in. What you consistently think about, you pull closer. What you dwell on, you draw in. This is not a concept reserved for the deeply spiritual or overly philosophical. This is a law of life. Your thoughts become things. When you start to grasp that your mind is a magnet, you stop playing the victim. You stop saying, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and start asking, "What am I attracting that's causing this to show up again?" If your mind is attracting experiences, people, and opportunities, or the lack of them, then the question is not what's going on around you. The real question is what's going on inside you. The dangerous thing about mirrors is they can lie. You can look in a mirror and see yourself in the present. But your mind as a magnet doesn't care what your present looks like. It's always working toward the future you think about the most. This is why broke people keep attracting more lack. This is why stressed people keep attracting more chaos. This is why people stuck in cycles keep repeating the same story in different chapters, because their minds are magnets to the very thing they say they don't want, but secretly believe they deserve or expect. If you want to know what's going on in your mind, don't look at your dreams. Look at your patterns. Your patterns expose your programming. You might say, "I want abundance." But if your mind is marinated in fear, worry, and a scarcity narrative, then your magnet is not pulling in abundance. It's attracting more reasons to be afraid, to hoard, to doubt. Your words may be aimed at the future, but your belief is glued to the past. A magnet doesn't choose what to attract based on your intention. It attracts based on your dominant vibration. That means the energy behind your thoughts, what you feel while you think, is the real force that pulls results into your life. You can speak affirmations all day, but if they're not backed by belief, you won't see change. You can set goals and write vision boards, but if the magnetic field of your mind is tuned to fear, you'll repel progress even while reaching for it. People often ask, "Why does it feel like I'm working so hard but getting nowhere?" The answer lies in alignment. If your actions are going in one direction but your mind is pulling in another, you'll always feel resistance. That resistance isn't proof that success isn't for you. It's proof that your magnet is out of sync with your motion. You're moving forward physically, but mentally you're stuck in limitation, and the magnet of your mind is stronger than the motion of your hustle. The secret is not to work harder. The secret is to think clearer, to feel deeper, to believe higher. When you understand that your mind is a magnet, you start protecting your thoughts like you protect your money. You stop entertaining conversations that contaminate your frequency. You stop watching content that pollutes your expectation. You stop surrounding yourself with people who drain your power instead of developing it, because you know every thought is a seed, and every seed has a harvest. You can't sow negativity and expect peace. You can't entertain lack and expect overflow. You can't bathe in doubt and expect to walk in destiny. Your mind is the soil, your thoughts are the seeds, your emotions are the water, and your focus is the sunlight. That's how the magnet gets stronger. Control is not about force, it's about frequency. When your thoughts become focused, consistent, and aligned with truth, not fear, not memory, not pain, then your mind becomes an irresistible force of attraction. That's when things start shifting. That's when doors start opening. That's when people say, "How did all of this happen for you so fast?" But it didn't happen fast. It happened in the invisible long before it manifested in the visible. The magnet did its work before the mirror ever showed a change. You don't have a thinking problem. You have a focus problem. Most people assume their thoughts are the issue. They believe they're overthinking, underthinking, or thinking the wrong way. But thinking isn't the enemy. Scattered thinking is. It's not that you can't think clearly. It's that your thoughts are trying to serve too many masters at once. You're trying to focus on your future while being haunted by your past. You're trying to walk in purpose while drowning in people's opinions. You're trying to build something meaningful while your attention is being pulled in 100 directions. That's not a thinking problem. That's a focus crisis. Your mind is like a laser. When it's focused, it can cut through steel, but when it's diffused, it loses all power. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they lack ideas, it's because they lack intention. They think about too much at the same time. They carry mental tabs like a browser with 50 windows open, wondering why everything feels slow, overwhelming, and out of control. You weren't designed to focus on everything. You were designed to focus on the right thing. If the enemy of success can't stop you, it will scatter you. It will keep you so busy, so distracted, so flooded with urgency that you never stop long enough to ask, what am I really aiming? Clarity is the birthplace of focus. You can't hit a target you can't see, and most people are aiming at 5 targets, hoping something lands. That's not strategic. That's survival mode. You see, thinking is automatic. Your brain is wired to think. You don't even have to try. But focus is intentional. Focus is a discipline. It requires energy, resistance to distraction, and a clear sense of priority. Without focus, thinking becomes an enemy instead of an ally. You start using your thoughts to worry instead of create. You rehearse worst-case scenarios instead of rehearsing your vision. You let your imagination serve your fears instead of your future. You'll know your focus is broken when you constantly feel busy but never productive. You'll know your focus is off when you're mentally exhausted but have no results to show for it. That's the trap of misdirected thinking. You're using your most powerful tool, your mind, to feed anxiety instead of building clarity. Focus changes that. It pulls you out of confusion and puts you in command. When you learn how to focus, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop being led by everything around you and start being led by what's within you. The greatest danger of having a focus problem is that you can start succeeding in the wrong direction. You'll climb the ladder of achievement only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. You'll get applause for something that doesn't even align with your assignment. You'll reach goals that look good on paper but feel empty in your soul. That's the cost of scattered focus. It makes you effective at what doesn't even matter. The power of focus isn't just in what it adds. It's in what it eliminates. When you know your focus, you know what to say no to. You don't need to do more. You need to do less with more intention. Most people try to manage time, but the truly successful manage focus. Time without focus is wasted potential, but focus multiplies time by giving your energy direction. Think about a magnifying glass. The sun shines on the earth all day, but nothing catches fire until you take a lens and focus that light on one spot. That's when ignition happens. That's when heat becomes fire. That's what happens when you take your scattered thoughts and focus them on a single mission, a single goal, a single breakthrough. You create mental firepower, and let's be honest, in this culture of scrolling, swiping, and splitting attention across a million apps and voices, your greatest competitive advantage is not knowledge, it's not talent, it's focus. The people who win are not the smartest, they're the most focused. The people who rise are not the most connected, they're the most consistent. Focus is the hidden force behind excellence. It's the difference between average and extraordinary. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or stagnant, don't blame your thoughts. They're not broken. They're just unfocused. Bring them into alignment. Remind them who's in charge, because your future doesn't need more noise. It needs more focus. Emotion is the fuel, but decision is the driver. Most people spend their lives revving their emotional engines, but never go anywhere because they never take the wheel. They wait until they feel ready, feel confident, or feel like it's the right time. But emotions were never meant to lead your life. They were meant to empower it. You can be full of passion, desire, and intensity, but without a clear decision, you're just burning energy in place. Emotion can start the fire, but decision gives it direction. We live in a culture that glorifies how we feel. Feelings have become the compass instead of the companion, but the truth is, your feelings are inconsistent. They change with the weather. They shift based on who's around you. They rise and fall depending on your sleep, your diet, your stress, and your surroundings. You can't build a consistent life on inconsistent emotions. You have to build on solid decisions, non-negotiables that anchor you when your emotions want to drift. Some of the most destructive choices people make happen when they confuse emotion with decision. They say yes to things out of guilt. They quit out of fear. They stay stuck out of comfort. They avoid risks out of anxiety. None of those are decisions. They're emotional reactions disguised as logic. But real decisions aren't based on the climate of the moment. They're rooted in clarity of your convictions. Emotion may inform you, but it must never control you. Here's the paradox. Emotions are necessary. They give life its color. They add power to your purpose. But just like fuel, if it's not handled properly, it becomes dangerous. Uncontrolled emotion leads to impulse, choices, broken focus, and missed opportunities. But disciplined emotion, fuel directed by decision, becomes momentum. It becomes unstoppable energy in service of a clear direction. If you think about a car, fuel without a driver just sits. The tank could be full, the engine could roar, but if no one gets in the car and turns the wheel, it doesn't matter how powerful the engine is. That's how a lot of people live. They're full of passion, full of ideas, full of potential, but they're parked. And they stay parked because they're waiting for the perfect feeling before they decide to move. But excellence isn't built on emotion. It's built on resolve. It's built on decision backed by discipline. Every major breakthrough in your life will require you to move before you feel like it. You'll have to decide before you understand all the details. You'll have to leap while your emotions are still catching up. If you wait to feel your way into purpose, you'll spend your whole life stuck in potential. But when you decide, things start to change. Decision is what separates wishers from winners, dreamers from doers, and noise from movement. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most. It probably wasn't when everything felt right. It was when you made a hard decision in the face of fear. It was when you chose purpose over comfort. It was when you said, "I don't feel it, but I'm doing it anyway." That's where transformation begins, not when you feel powerful, but when you decide to act like you are. The problem is, we've been trained to worship emotion and treat decision like an afterthought. But that's why so many people feel inspired for a moment and stuck for a lifetime. Inspiration is emotional. Implementation is decisional. You can cry during a message, take notes during a seminar, scream yes during a motivational video, but if you don't follow it with a decision, nothing changes. Emotion fades, decision builds, and decisions are not just one-time events. They're commitments that must be reinforced daily. You don't just decide to be focused, you decide to refocus every morning. You don't just decide to walk in purpose. You decide again every time you're tempted to settle. Decision is a discipline. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not viral, but it's powerful. It's what keeps you moving when your emotions say stop. It's what keeps you grounded when pressure rises. It's what keeps you locked in when distractions try to pull you off course. So yes, emotion is necessary. Let it fuel you. Let it fire you up. Let it remind you why you started, but don't confuse the gas with the GPS. Don't confuse the spark with the steering wheel. You need emotion, but you must be led by decision, because emotion without decision is wasted energy, but decision, powered by emotion, is unstoppable force. Words are the steering wheel of the mind. Wherever your words go, your mind will follow. Most people think words are just sounds or expressions of how they feel, but the truth is, words are instructions. Every word you speak is a command to your brain, your spirit, and your future. You're not just communicating, you're programming. You're not just expressing, you're directing. If your words are sloppy, your mind will be scattered. If your words are powerful, your mind will be precise. Think about how a steering wheel works. You don't need to pick up the car and turn it with your hands. You just turn the wheel, and even a small adjustment can completely change the destination. That's exactly how words work. You may think it's just a simple sentence, a passing comment, a casual phrase, but it's not casual to your mind. It's a turn of the wheel. Speak enough doubt, and your mind turns toward fear. Speak enough excuses, and your mind turns toward stagnation. Speak enough power, and your mind begins to move toward possibilities. The challenge is most people speak based on how they feel instead of where they want to go. They say things like, "I'm so tired. Nothing ever works out for me. I always mess this up." Or, "This is just who I am." And they don't realize those words are digging grooves in the direction of their lives. Their words become self-fulfilling prophecies. The more they say it, the more they believe it, and the more they believe it, the more they live it. Your mind listens to your mouth more than anyone else's. You might hear 1,000 voices in a day, but the voice that shaped your internal reality the most is your own. That's why changing your life starts with changing your language. If you keep saying what you've always said, you'll keep thinking how you've always thought, and you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. Words carry frequency. Words carry energy. That's why two people can say the same sentence and it lands differently, because it's not just the word, it's the belief behind it. When you speak with clarity, conviction, and alignment, your words become weapons. They cut through confusion. They silence fear. They bring focus. But when you speak from doubt, worry, or defeat, your words become weights. They don't move you forward. They pull you down. Some people think they need more motivation, more money, more mentorship. But what they really need is to master their mouth, because the direction of their life isn't being determined by their resources, it's being driven by their words. You can't speak limitation and expect elevation. You can't speak chaos and expect peace. You can't curse your path and expect it to lead somewhere powerful. What you say in private is even more important than what you say in public. It's not just about sounding confident to others. It's about training your own mind to believe truth over feelings. There will be moments when everything around you looks broken. But if your words stay grounded, your mind will remain steady. And if your mind stays steady, your decisions will stay strong. You can talk yourself into faith, or you can talk yourself into fear. The choice is always in your mouth. Most people wait for their situation to change before they change their speech. But the truth is, speech is often the seed of change. You speak the future you expect. You declare what you're committed to. Even if you don't see it yet, even if it feels far off, that's what faith sounds like. Speaking as if it's already done. And when your mind hears that repeatedly, it starts aligning your habits, focus, and actions with the destination your words have chosen. That's the power of intentional speech. You don't speak from your current position. You speak from your destined place. You don't use words to describe your life. You use them to design it. You say what needs to be said, even when your emotions try to convince you otherwise, because you know your words are not decorations. They are declarations, and every declaration is a turn of the wheel. So if your life feels off course, don't just look at your circumstances. Listen to your language. The path you're on may be the product of the words you've repeated for years. You're always steering, even when you think you're just speaking, and the amazing part is, you don't need a full tank to make a turn. One sentence can start the shift. One phrase can begin a new path. One moment of powerful speech can unlock a new mindset, a new vision, a new outcome. Environment either programs or poisons your mind. There is no middle ground. The spaces you live in, the people you listen to, the voices you entertain, they are either reinforcing your potential or slowly suffocating it. Most people underestimate how much their environment shapes their thoughts, their decisions, and ultimately, their destiny. You don't rise above your surroundings by accident, you rise by intention, because if your environment is toxic, even your most powerful thoughts can wither before they become action. Your environment is a constant teacher. It teaches you what's normal. It teaches you what's possible. It teaches you what to expect. And over time, what you're exposed to repeatedly becomes what you accept unconsciously. That's why two people can have the same talent, the same ambition, and the same resources, but end up with completely different outcomes. One had an environment that cultivated belief. The other had an environment that crushed it. You can't consistently think higher than the people you surround yourself with. If you spend your time with those who complain, play small, or make excuses, it won't be long before your mind starts to adopt their language. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're human. Repetition rewires the mind, and exposure over time becomes expectation. If you hear doubt enough, it sounds like wisdom. If you hear scarcity long enough, it feels like truth. If you're around dysfunction constantly, it begins to feel familiar. And familiarity often gets mistaken for safety. But familiarity is not the same as alignment. Just because you've always been around certain voices doesn't mean they're right for your future. Some of the most dangerous environments are the ones that feel comfortable but kill your calling. You know something is wrong, but you tolerate it because it's all you've known. You justify staying because it's hard to imagine something better. But the truth is, your environment doesn't just reflect your mind, it shapes it. And if you don't upgrade your environment, you will eventually downgrade your vision. Sometimes, the most strategic thing you can do is relocate mentally, emotionally, or even physically. This doesn't always mean cutting people off, but it does mean creating boundaries strong enough to protect your progress. You don't owe unlimited access to anyone who constantly speaks against your growth. Your future deserves more than that. Your purpose is too valuable to be poisoned by proximity to negativity, fear, and complacency. There are environments where your greatness feels like a threat, spaces where your vision feels too big, circles where dreaming is mocked and ambition is misinterpreted as arrogance. Stay in that too long, and you'll start shrinking yourself just to fit in. You'll dim your light so others can stay comfortable. You'll second guess what you were once confident in. And little by little, your mental software gets reprogrammed by the wrong inputs. But the good news is, the opposite is also true. When you place yourself in a powerful environment, one filled with vision, conviction, and purpose, everything in you begins to rise. You start thinking bigger. You start talking differently. You start making decisions based on destiny instead of survival. That kind of environment doesn't just encourage you, it activates you, it challenges your excuses, it confronts your fears, it calls out the version of you that you were created to become. You'll know you've entered the right environment when you can't stay average and be comfortable at the same time. When settling starts to feel suffocating, when compromise is no longer an option, that's the sign that your mind is being programmed for more. That's when your thinking stretches. That's when your discipline sharpens. That's when your capacity multiplies. If you want to transform your life, start by evaluating your environment. What do you hear every day? Who do you spend the most time with? What kind of content are you feeding your mind? Are your surroundings pushing you to purpose or pulling you into procrastination? Are you being inspired or infected? You can't live a performance life in a low frequency environment. It doesn't matter how motivated you are. If your environment doesn't support your elevation, you'll always be fighting an uphill battle. Your goals can't survive in a space that starves them. Your discipline won't last in an atmosphere that mocks it. Your focus will fade in the presence of constant distraction. The world around you becomes the world within you. If you don't choose your environment with intention, you will inherit one by default. And most default environments are designed to keep you stuck. But when you intentionally build or find an environment that aligns with your values, supports your mission, and challenges your limitations, you're no longer surviving. You're becoming, because the mind is fertile soil, and the environment is either planting seeds of destiny or weeds of destruction. One will grow your future, the other will bury it. The choice is always yours. Faith is the firewall against mental attacks. The mind is a battlefield, and every day thoughts are warring for control. Some built on truth, others built on fear, doubt, and lies. Mental attacks don't always announce themselves with violence or chaos. Sometimes they come quietly, in the form of self-doubt, anxiety, insecurity, or weariness. These attacks aim to weaken your belief, distort your vision, and dismantle your confidence. And if you don't have something stronger than your emotions to fight back, you'll retreat into patterns that steal your power. That's why you need faith, not as a feeling, but as a firewall. A firewall is not passive. It's built to detect, defend, and deny access to any virus that threatens the system. Faith works the same way. When fear knocks, faith answers. When doubt whispers, faith responds. When anxiety tries to flood your mind, faith stands like a wall, filtering every thought, checking every lie at the door. Not every thought deserves access. Not every voice deserves an audience. But without faith, you'll believe anything that sounds familiar, even if it's false. Faith is not blind hope. It's not positive thinking. It's targeted belief in something greater than your current circumstances. It's rooted in conviction, not convenience. Faith doesn't wait until everything looks right to stand strong. It stands strong so that things can become right. Without faith, you're vulnerable to everything that moves. Every opinion can shake you. Every delay can drain you. Every setback can destroy you. But when faith is active, you become unshakable, not because life is easy, but because your mind is anchored. Mental attacks come most violently when you're on the edge of progress. The enemy doesn't fight you over where you are. He fights you over where you're headed. That's why the closer you get to purpose, the louder the warfare becomes. That's when thoughts like, "You're not ready," "Who do you think you are?" or "This will never work," start to echo in your head. They don't show up because they're true. They show up because your next level is near. And the only thing that silences those lies is faith. Faith gives you the ability to choose your response before your emotions make a mess. It tells your mind, "Even if I don't see it yet, I still believe." It tells your doubt, "You don't run this." It tells your fear, "You're not in charge here." And it tells your dream, "We're not quitting just because it's hard." Faith isn't loud, but it's powerful. It's the quiet confidence that reminds your soul of what's real when everything around you feels uncertain. You don't need faith when everything is going your way. You need it when your mind is under attack, when clarity feels far, when the noise is loud, when the outcome looks impossible. That's when faith shows up and does its best work. It shields your mind from collapse. It guards your heart from compromise. It filters every attack through the lens of truth. Without that filter, you internalize lies as identity. You start thinking the storm is a sign that you're off track, when sometimes it's confirmation you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Faith is not just protection, it's direction. It tells your mind what to focus on, what to believe, and what to pursue. It trains you to act on what you know, not just what you feel. That's why people with strong faith are often the most mentally disciplined. They've learned to trust a promise even when the process gets ugly. They've learned to move forward even when the path isn't fully visible, because faith doesn't need a full blueprint to obey. It just needs a clear word. There will always be reasons to quit, to settle, to shrink. The mind will try to convince you that it's safer to lower your expectations than to risk disappointment, that it's smarter to stay small than to dream big, that it's better to be passive than to be vulnerable. But those are not protective thoughts. They are invasive attacks, and faith is the firewall that blocks them before they take root. You've got to monitor what you meditate on. Every thought is either feeding your faith or fueling your fear. Faith says, this isn't the end. Faith says, there's more inside of me. Faith says, I was created for this. Not because of ego, but because of alignment. Faith puts you back in sync with your purpose when life tries to pull you out of rhythm. So don't just fight your battles with willpower or emotion. Build the firewall, activate your faith, speak what's true, stand on what's right, and remind your mind every day, you don't have to believe every thought you think. Some thoughts are simply attacks, and faith is your shield. Faith doesn't just protect your mind, it preserves your mission.